Welcome to the Exec Exchange, a 15-minute podcast in which a leader from the water sector shares a story to inspire, inform, and educate other water sector leaders from around the globe. My name is Piers Clark, and my guest today is Dr. Natasha Avendaño, Chief Executive of Acueducto in Bogota, Colombia.
Thank you very much, Piers, for this invitation.
It's wonderful to have you with us because you have a truly fascinating story to tell about the nightmare scenario that anyone stepping into the leader of a utility would never want to happen for them. It happened to you. But before we do, let's learn a little bit about you and about the organization. So, Natasha, can you tell me what you did to get into the role that you're in now?
I am an economist. I have 3 master's degree, a PhD, and I've always worked in the public sector. 6 years ago, I got into the utility sector. I was the superintendent of public utilities, which is the national organization or entity that overviews and supervises all the public utilities, energy, water, sewage, gas, everything. And from that position, I went through the energy regulator. And that's why I got into the utilities board and ended up being appointed by Bogota's mayor last January to be the CEO of the biggest company in Colombia that manages and provides the water and sewage services for over 10 million Colombians.
Excellent. So what we've got is Acueducto serves 10 million people, is water and wastewater around the city of Bogota. And you do retail, it's direct to the customers, it's not to any local water providers.
Exactly. So our direct customers are around 10 million people. We serve both potable water and wastewater services. We also sell bulk water to some other providers in the region. We have 11 bulk water contracts with these other small utilities in the municipalities nearby Bogota. Adding up the additional utilities that buy bulk water from us, it probably adds up to 11.5 million people that is serviced by our water.
Excellent. And it's good that you do wastewater, but we're going to be talking about drinking water today because, as you said, you joined Acueducto in January 2024. And within literally days of being there, circumstances turned against you. Can you tell that story, please?
When I got to this position, I knew that this was going to be a challenge, but it was going to be an easy challenge because my previous job of supervising all the utilities. So I had some sort of confidence, and the company is big. It has 137 years of history. Everything was perfect. To just put you in context, Bogota has 3 main systems for provision of the water. Everything is from running water. We don't have underground water for our production of potable water. We have our main reservoir up in the mountains of 320 cubic hectometers capacity. Another one that is closer to the city but is connected to our main treatment plant is 70 cubic hectometers capacity. So we have a robust system but has one flow. We have the rain that fills up the system, and in the same year, we use up that water. We haven't had any trouble in the previous 60 years. However, I started having alerts from the team that manages the water catchments saying, we are experiencing low levels of our main reservoir system.
So you're in a situation where you've got some robust assets, you've got some decent sized reservoirs positioned strategically around the city, but it all hinges on the rains mustn't fail. The weather mustn't leave you high and dry, quite literally. And of course, during late 2023, you didn't get the weather you required, which meant that you were now at historically low levels inside your reservoirs. I do think it's important to understand just how new you were in the role when this flagged up and your engineers were telling you, Natasha, we're at record low levels. How long had you been in the post?
6 days. They've been flagging it up before. The previous administration knew maybe it would be better to have at least a more profound conversation when we were doing the transition. So going back to the 3 main systems that we have, the second one is the Bogota River. This is a system that became very important in the management of the crisis. The Bogota River used to provide 24% of the potable water. The other 70% was coming from Chingaza. Part of the strategy that they already had designed was we're going to increase the amount of water that we're bringing from the Bogota River system progressively to help lower the pressure over the Chingaza system. Mostly because January, February, and March are the driest months of the rainy season.
Okay, so what you've got is you've got 70% coming from the reservoirs, which are at historically low levels. You've got 24% that normally comes from the river. And the strategy is, well, you know what, Natasha, it's not going to last forever. We just need to get through these next few months. So let's draw a bit more from the river. That's what the engineers were telling you. We'll be right. We'll just get through these next few weeks.
Yeah, basically because our Hydrometeorology Institute, the institute at the national level that forecasts the weather from the beginning of last year, was saying, yeah, we didn't have rains the way we were supposed to have by the end of 2023 because of El Niño phenomena. But this is going to end soon and we're going to get the rain. And it didn't.
Not only do you have a dry season, you had a wiped out wet season. You have reservoirs that will only cope with 1 year's worth of water. Therefore, if they don't get topped up, you're left high and dry. Now, I want to get to the bit of what you did, because the engagement with customers and the restrictions you put in place are incredible. So what were the restrictions and when did you put them in place?
Mid-January, we started to do savings campaigns with the customers, calling the customers to be conscious that we needed to have a responsible water consumption. We had, by the end of January, massive fires in the mountains that we have right here in the city. So it was also a problem because we needed the water to extinguish the fires. Then the rain didn't come. So we started doing management pressure in the system to try to save more water that way. But by the end of March, the rain didn't come. We were literally running out of water and we couldn't let the reservoir to dry. So we divided the whole city in 9 zones. We would restrict the service for 24 hours. At 8 a.m. in the morning, we would cut off the service and start the reestablishment of the service the following day by 6 a.m. in the morning.
You've got a whole bunch of challenges there because not only are you restricting parts of the network, you've then got to flush those bits of the network before you can issue water. But you now have this rolling campaign of people having water, depending which zone they were in. How much were the restrictions? Was it 1 day a week that they were restricted or more?
Every 10 days, because we divided the whole area of service in 9 zones. So you would repeat your restriction at the 10-day.
My suspicion of human nature is that if someone told me that I was going to be restricted with water on Tuesday, I'm going to fill my bath on Monday. I'm going to store all of as much water as I possibly can, just in case I need it. Did you see any of that sort of behavior?
We knew that was going to be probably at the beginning, while you get used to how much water you really and actually need. We didn't see it that much because we also had a huge campaign of trying to make people conscious of you don't need to have a lot of water saved. If it's a working day, you're not going to be in your house, and the other half, you're probably going to be sleeping. It's not that you need to save a lot of water. And if you do, well, don't waste it afterwards.
Now, when did you put in place the restrictions? And more importantly, when did they cease?
We started the restrictions officially the 11th of April of 2024. That was the first day we had 1/9 of our area of service without water for 24 hours. And it wasn't 24 hours. Of course, it was more because water had to run down the pipes. And we had a lot of people complaining, saying that we were telling lies. That was probably one of the most challenging part of the communication is it has to be snow because otherwise we were going to have problems with the distribution networks.
I can imagine this nightmare scenario. So you started it in the middle of April 2024, expecting it to last for just a few weeks. When did you lift these restrictions?
We lifted the restrictions exactly 1 year, 12th of April of 2025. We were not expecting to last few weeks because we always said that the reason for the restriction is we needed to guarantee we had enough water for 2024 and enough water for 2025. because we needed the hydrological cycle to get normal again. And that's why in April, which is when normally the hydrological cycle starts, we start seeing a totally different scenario. That's when we decided to go back to normal and stop having the restrictions apply.
Excellent. I think there's a separate podcast on what you've done now to give yourself resilience for the future, but we don't have time to cover it here. The one last question I'd like to ask is, how's the relationship you've got with your customers? Have they come on a journey with you, or are they resentful and angry?
I think most of our customers understood and really got engaged into the need of helping us save water. And just one thing that for me it's important to notice is more than 2 months after we lifted the restrictions, we're still seeing a consumption that is below what we were expecting it to be. So we didn't have that jump that we thought it was going to have. No, they kept the good habits.
Excellent. When you do a water restriction or a hose pipe ban for a few weeks, people flip back to their old behaviors very quickly. When you do it for a full 4 seasons, full 12 months, then it's a much more lasting change. Natasha, that is a wonderful story. I do find myself thinking, well, if I'd been 6 days into a post and was presented with that problem, I probably would have thrown my hat into the ring and said, this wasn't what you promised. You have been spectacular in rising to that challenge and preserving the city of Bogota. Now, I want to finish with a slightly cheeky question. When you think back to the things you've done, what is it that you owe your parents?
My parents both are engineers, civil engineers. So one thing that I owe them for this particular stage in my life is all the knowledge that I got empirically from them, because they involved me in all their jobs and work while I was growing. I'm only child, so I had all the attention all the time. And the second one, which is probably more thoughtful, is the perseverance and the capacity of being able to work in the things you face in a manner that make them happen and make them matter.
Brilliant. You have been listening to the Exec Exchange with me, Piers Clark, and my guest today has been Dr. Natasha Avendaño, Chief Executive of Acueducto in Bogota, Colombia. I hope you can join us next time. Thank you very much.